We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Siman Kuf Lametet, the halachot of Kriyat Torah. We are up to Sif Dalit and Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Bet of the regular prince of Mishna Berura. And Maran writes, Kol HaKorin Mevarchin Lefanea V'Acharea. We have already studied together how many aliyot on regular weekdays of Monday, Thursday, Shabbat afternoon, on Rosh Chodesh, on Yom Tov, on Yom Kippur, and on Shabbat, being 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 aliyot. All of those who read the Torah, they say bracha beforehand and afterwards, as well as the Gemara says in Masechet Megillah, Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, Ufoteach, and the bracha that you say starts with opening the Sefer Kodem Sheyivarech Veroya Pasuk Shtarich La'atchil Bo. You see where you have to say the bracha on, and that's why you see the Baal Koreh always showing the portion that is going to be read for the individual before he says the bracha. Ve'achar kach yevarech, and then you say the bracha. Ule'achar shekara golel umevarech, and when you finish the reading, you close the Sefer Torah, you roll it closed, and you say the bracha. The Rama adds, "Ubesha'a shemevarech bracha rishona yapoch panav el hatzad shelo yeh nireh kemevarech min Torah." Now, for the minhag Ashkenaz, that you have the Sefer Torah out of the box and it's rolled open, says the Rama, when you say the bracha, don't look inside the Sefer Torah, because it looks to the onlooker as if you are reading the brachot from the Torah, as if it's written, the text of the bracha in the Torah, which would be something wrong. You cannot do that, of course. So therefore, it says look away from the Sefer Torah as you say the bracha. So that's already two things. You could close it or you could have it open and look away. And that's what the Rama writes to do. Shelo yeh nireh kemevarech min Torah v'nireh li di'apoch panav letzad simolo. And says the Rama, better to turn your face to the left side. So Mishnah Berura explains over here, Kol HaKorin, that everyone says the bracha when they read every portion, every aliyah, you say bracha before and after. Even though that really Mikar Adin was not like that. The main original minhag was not to do that necessarily. The first person would say bracha rishona, asher bachar banu, and the last person would say bracha acharona, asher natan lanu. That's how it was originally. And that would be sufficient, because there's one bracha in the beginning and one bracha at the end of the mitzvah of Kriyat Torah, which is the mitzvah for the tzibur to have. And hence, that would suffice to say bracha in the beginning and the bracha at the end of the entire process. And that was the original takana of Chazal, but they added this because of nichtasim ve'yotzim, because of people who come in and out, and they may leave early and think that they didn't say bracha at the end. They may come late and think they didn't say bracha in the beginning, and therefore Chazal changed that, so to speak, to be that every person that goes up to the Torah says a bracha before and says a bracha afterwards, which is, of course, the minhag that we have nowadays as well. And the Mishnah Berura explains that after the reading of the Torah, that you say the bracha v'shenata lanu, lekule alma derabanan, ulefanea shei birkat asher bahar. According to everyone, the bracha afterwards is derabanan, it's not deoraita. But there are those who say, yesh deot ben aposkimim hi devar Torah o derabanan, for the bracha prior to the reading, asher bachar banu, that is a debate within the poskim whether or not is considered deoraita or derabanan. We already discussed this at length in Siman Mem Zayin, for those who remember. Be it according to Ramban and other Rishonim, Birkat Torah is the oraita. What if you already have said the bracha in the morning, and so on? So refer to that for further information. Now, the reason that the bracha afterwards starts with Baruch, even though that this is a bracha that is simucha lechaverta. You already said the bracha before, and this is connected with the bracha in the beginning, right? You have this by Baruch Shamar and Ishtabach. You have many of the brachot that you have beginning and end, and when you have something that's samuch lechaverta as well, like the bracha Elokai Neshama. The Bet Yosef brings that because in the beginning, when they were saying the bracha only in the beginning of the first aliyah and the end of seventh aliyah or the last aliyah, and this way was different people saying the bracha and was needed to be said as a full bracha by itself, not the bracha semucha lechaverta. Over here also they did not change the nusach, the text of the bracha asher natan lanu, and they kept it the same way, even though that when the same person says both of them would not necessarily necessitate a bracha that starts with Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, but nevertheless it was kept the same way. And that's only if you have not said Birkat Torah yet, which is a question if it's the bracha is the bracha B'Shebach Harbanu is the Oraita or not. But in Berach Kvar Birkat Torah, says the Mishnah Berura, if you already said the brachot in the morning, of course it's not going to be the Oraita, is for sure going to be the Rabbanan as well, and it's because of the Kavod HaTzibur as we're going to have later on in Sifchet upcoming. If you make a mistake and instead of saying Asher B'Harbanu, and this happens for people who have, especially those who have a fear of Tzibur, they go up there and they mix up the brachot. So it starts with Asher Natalanu with Torah. So what do you do? How loud do you have to scream at him when he makes the mistake publicly up there? So it says the Mishnah Berura, if he makes that mistake, if it's before he says the end of the bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem Torah, if he catches himself or they catch him beforehand, Yatchil Ma'asher B'Harbanu, you go back to Asher B'Harbanu. In other words, let's imagine he said Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu et Torato Torat Emet V'Hayei Olam Nata B'Tochenu, and then someone pointed out gently without embarrassing him that this is a mistake. So he just pauses there and continues with the words Asher B'Harbanu Mikol Ha'amim Natan Lanu et Torato Baruch Ata Hashem Natan Torah. Right? He could catch a mistake and fix it right from there. But if you already said Baruch Ata Hashem to say Noten Torah, then even though that you haven't finished Noten Torah and you could technically say Lamedeni Chukecha and go back and fix the bracha, you don't do that. You just finish Noten Torah because you're Yotzeh. But the Avid, in a case that you already said Asher Natan Lanu instead of Asher B'Harbanu, that's also fine. And just afterwards, after you finish your Kriyat Torah, when you said the wrong bracha in the beginning, says the Mishnah Berura, then you say Asher B'Harbanu as the instead of the Asher Natan Lanu that you already said, you say Asher B'Harbanu, and that suffices. That's what the Rabbi Yaakov Milisa, is known otherwise as the Chavodat or Netivot, depending on his Perush and Choshen Mishpat is Netivot, Chavodat and Yoreda. He wrote a Sidur that Mr. Berura likes quoting all the time, a Sidur Derech HaChaim, which you see it almost on every page of Mishnah Berura. That is that Sefer from the Halachot of Or HaChaim from Rabbi Yaakov Milisa. So that's one of the psakim that he has. And if you, at the end of the Kriyah, said Asher Natan Lanu also, then after you say Baruch Ata Hashem, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu said that you should say Lamedeni Chukecha and fix it, and go back to Asher B'Harbanu. But if you remembered after you finished the bracha, then you're Yotzeh, but the Eved, you don't have to go back and do it. In other words, Mikaradin, these two brachot are interchangeable. And if somebody made that mistake, you have to think twice before you yell at them, if it's going to be something that's going to publicly embarrass them. So that's something to be mindful as well. Again, these are jobs of the Gabayeh Bet Knesset, to be sensitive and to be vigilant not to let these mistakes happen and catch them early on before it becomes an embarrassing situation. So it says the Mishnah Berura, the fact that you see the pasuk in the beginning, you have to know what you're exactly saying the bracha on. You don't have to close the Sefer Torah in the beginning of the bracha that you're saying. And you're not so concerned about people thinking, according to Maran, Shulchan Aruch, that the people are going to say, oh, the brachot are written in the Torah. So therefore, everyone knows that the brachot are not written. For the first bracha, Chazal were not really concerned about this because you have to close it and then open it again. Those few seconds, you're wasting the time of the tzibur. But by bracha achrona is okay because anyways the people are changing. There's another person coming up, so that time is not any real difference. In bracha achrona you don't have that reason necessarily. Anyways, between the two people you have to close the Sefer Torah. Anyways, therefore, it's best to close the Sefer Torah before you say the bracha of Asher Natan Lanu. But in the beginning, according to Maran, again, they were not really specific about that. The Ben Ish Chai and Kaf Chaim write that you should cover the ktav of Sefer Torah with a mapa, with a cloth. And that's where that minhag comes from. The people give this fancy cloths for the kavod of Sefer Torah because that's how we do it. In order to avoid waste of time, at the same time cover it l'chatchila. That's the minhag, that we do cover it even in bracha rishona, but we cover it with the mapa of Sefer Torah. This way, accomplishing both things at the same time. And the Ramah writes in the bracha, you turn your face away, for again assuring that people don't mistakenly think that you're reading the brachot from the Sefer Torah itself. This doesn't have any tirchad sibura. It doesn't take any more time to say the bracha when your face is turned around, turned away. And therefore, you should be careful even in bracha rishona for this chashash of people not thinking that you're reading the psukim off the scroll, and therefore you should do it. There's nothing to lose. So again, the Ashkenazim and Sfaradim do it in two different ways. The Sfaradim cover it with a cloth, says the Ben Ish Chai, says the Kaf Chaim, and Ashkenazim just turn away their face in the bracha rishona, keeping the Sefer Torah open at the same time, not looking at it by turning around their face to the left. Says the Mishnah Berura, the reason is because the left is the Yamin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your left is standing in front of the Shekhinah, is the right side of the Shekhinah, and that's what we already discussed in Chot Tefillah, for those who remember, in Siman Kuf Chaf Gimel. There are those poskim who are not a big supporter of turning away your face from the Sefer Torah, because again you're showing as if you're not saying the bracha on what you're reading. You're saying bracha facing the side. So again, these are sensitivities that are there, brought in the poskim, and therefore yoter tov la'asim enaf shelo lestakel b'sefer Torah b'shat bracha. The best would be, according to these, to close your eyes in the time that you say the bracha, but you're not facing away from the Sefer Torah. And yesh nagid lishchot u'lishtachavot be'et amirat bracha. There are those who bow a little bit at the time that they say the bracha b'kat Torah, because of the kavod, showing kavod to the Torah. And again, the Kaf Chaim brings this, that it is a proper minhag, is not something wrong, anything wrong.